Thank you for tuning in and welcome back to Home Buying Tips. In today's episode, you'll learn about closing day for home buyers and what you should know. My name is Andrew Finney. Please consider me your real estate geek. I am always here to help. If you need help finding a top agent where you live, or if you simply want to drop me a line to say hello, my contact info is below. If you haven't already done so, please go ahead and subscribe to this channel now and like this video. Thank you. So let's go ahead and get into these closing mistakes that can come up or in things that you should know, specifically with point number one. Point number one is that your mortgage interest rate could actually change. And the reason that you would see your mortgage interest rate change is if you had a rate lock on your home mortgage. You'll need to discuss the situation with the local loan officer that you chose to make sure there's not going to be any last minute surprises with your mortgage interest rate and making sure that you're getting the rate that you thought that you were getting. Obviously, any increase in rate will also increase your monthly mortgage amount, and sometimes that can actually derail the whole deal if you're not careful, if it puts you outside of your debt to income ratios. So it's kind of a scary thing, and you want to make sure you get it right. Typically, it's best to probably rate lock anywhere between 2 and 4 weeks before you actually close. It just depends on what the rates are doing. You want to have that conversation with your local loan officer to know when is the best time for you to rate lock and what you should do to make sure that it doesn't change over the course of your closing process. So please, please, please be aware of that and make sure you're in good conversation with both your trusted real estate advisor and your local loan officer you chose to work with. So the second thing that you should know is that you may not be done with the mortgage process yet. Sometimes it comes as a surprise. You did all your hard work, you got all your tax returns, you got your bank statements, you got everything over to the lender that they requested to get your loan pre-approval letter so they could verify your income, your assets, your credit, and your employment verification. It's not over yet. What happens is towards the end of the process, anywhere between normally like 2 days to maybe even 7 days before you get ready to close on your new home, the lender's actually going to do what's called a soft pull on your credit, which means it's not a hard inquiry, but they're going to be able to see if you've taken out any new lines of credit, if you took out any new credit cards, if you charged up your credit cards, or if there was a delinquent payment or something. And if you have any of those circumstances, it can actually disqualify you from being able to get into your new home. So just because you got the loan pre-approval up front, just know they're going to do another final check verification right before you get ready to close. Make sure nothing has changed with your income, your assets, your credit, or your employment. If there was a change, please, please, please let them know as soon as possible. That's the only way that you could salvage this deal, if you can salvage it, and make sure that you're still able to close on your new home. There's a little pro tip here for you. If you're in the closing process, do not, and I repeat, do not go out and get a new credit card. Do not charge up your credit cards, because sometimes people get so excited. You're 7 to 10 days away from closing on your new home. You get excited, it's natural, you're emotional, and you go out and you make a mistake. And sometimes it's a bad mistake and it's innocent enough. You think, well, I need a new couch for my house. Or, hey, that home didn't have a refrigerator. We're just going to go ahead and order the refrigerator now, so whenever we get there, when we move in, it'll be scheduled for delivery that day or the next day, which makes a lot of sense, right? You would want to have a refrigerator in your home. But here's the thing, if you do that and it throws off your debt to income ratios, you might not get the home, but you'll still have the refrigerator. Is that what you really want? So it's something to think about, because I don't think any of us would rather have a refrigerator than a home, unless that's one heck of a refrigerator. But it's something that you should be aware of. It's something you should know and plan out correctly. When you're in the closing process, it's very, very, very important to continue doing things as you were doing whenever you got your loan pre-approval, and not to do anything differently. Be in strong communication with your trusted real estate advisor and local loan officer, and it will ensure your success. If you have any questions about that, please let us know. We're here to help you, and we want to see you succeed. The third thing that you want to think about or know about is that the house is not yours yet. So it's important to know that, because sometimes whenever you get ready to close on a house, you're like, it's mine, it's mine, it's mine, it's mine, but not yet. You have this little thing called a final walkthrough that you want to pay specific attention to. With that final walkthrough, ideally you're doing that 1 to 3 days in advance. And the reason that you want to do a final walkthrough 1 to 3 days in advance is to ensure the house is in the same condition as whenever you made the offer on the house, and obviously, hopefully a little bit better after the home inspection, and that hopefully the seller had agreed to make some repairs to the property. So another pro tip, whenever you're negotiating the home repairs with the seller, you're having your agent do that, of course, and you submit that repair request, one of the things that you want to really, really, really consider and talk to your trusted real estate advisor about is actually having the home inspector go back out for a second inspection after the seller says that they've made the repairs. That way you can have a little extra layer of protection, a little extra layer of peace of mind of knowing that everything was right before you went there. But you want to make sure that you remember that that house is not yours until it's officially closed and it has been recorded and the deed is now in your name. Keep that in mind, okay? So the fourth thing that you want to know about is that you may not be done with your homework just yet. And I know you're probably thinking, well, Andrew, before we made the offer on it, we did a lot of homework. We asked our real estate agent for the school district or the school zones that it was in. We asked them for neighborhood information. We asked all kinds of questions. We did our due diligence. We read the seller's real property disclosure report, and we went through all of that. At the same time, you need to be aware that you need to double and triple check and make sure that everything, especially like let's say there's an outstanding building permit. Let's say that the seller had actually made an addition onto the property and it may not have been permitted. That will come up, and normally that's going to be found by three places. Hopefully your home inspector will be able to catch it and tip you off that, hey, something's not quite right here. I'm not sure about this. We need to check with the building department in our city and see if this was permitted. The second thing, and this is like, people love appraisers and they hate appraisers, but here's the thing, appraisers are really good and their services are very necessary, especially a good appraiser, because a good appraiser will absolutely catch a room addition because they're looking at all the room sizes. They actually sketch out the entire property. I don't know about where you live. You could ask your trusted real estate advisor, but here in Las Vegas, Nevada, we can actually pull from the county assessor's office a building sketch of when that property was first appraised and any other sketches that appraisers may have submitted to the county assessor's office with any changes that were made to that property. It's extremely helpful because then you know exactly how many square feet it is other than what's being reported. Sometimes there's a mistake there. It's not common, but sometimes there's a mistake there where there's a discrepancy between a tax record square feet and the actual square feet in the property. It can be more or less. And depending on which way that goes, it can actually really, really impact you. Going back to those building permits, if there's an outstanding building permit and you became the owner of that property, guess whose responsibility it now becomes to have that section, that addition, or whatever happened with that property permitted? It's yours because you own it. And now it's your responsibility. So you want to make sure that you're aware of that so that if there's anything that needs to take place, then you can check on it and you can get it right from the beginning and know about it with open eyes as you move forward in the closing process. Now, the fifth thing that you need to know about is that sometimes closings can be anticlimactic. Let's say there was some bad blood. Let's say that between you and your buyer agent and the listing agent and the seller, there was some issues going on. Typically, this could happen for a couple of different reasons. Number one, it could happen if the home inspection came back and it was far worse than the seller could have ever thought about, or far worse than the buyers actually could have thought about, and there was a fight there, or at least with some very tense negotiations and what's going to get repaired and what's not going to be getting repaired, and sometimes that can equal bad blood, and then you're kind of angry but you still want the house and you're like, well, we'll just fix it on our own and we'll just do it. Well, sometimes, that breeds resentment within yourself, and the seller can actually get resentful of it as well. The second thing, and this is probably a bit more common, is if the appraisal comes back in less than the agreed upon contract price. In a seller's market, it's very normal for buyers to make multiple bids on properties. Unfortunately, sometimes whenever you make those multiple bids on properties, the emotions ramp up into winning the bid because you may have written an offer on 5, 7, 10, 20 houses or something and lost them. Due to multiple bids. So then you go in on the next house, you write a really strong offer, you win that bid, only to find out when the appraiser goes out, hey, guess what? The house didn't appraise, so there needs to be a renegotiation here, right? So it didn't come in at the value needed to match that contract. Sometimes sellers, they get really excited about it, and it's very important to remember, just as a buyer, not to be overly emotionally attached to a property until you actually close on it. Sellers got to be not emotionally attached to the amount of money they think they're going to get from selling that property, because what happens is then they feel like somebody's taking something out of their pocket when in reality they were counting their ducks before the eggs hatched, or counting their chickens before the eggs hatch, if you will, because you don't know what's going to happen. So my counsel to both the buyer and the seller is, let's see what happens with their appraisal. Let's see if we're going to need to renegotiate. I always tell a seller, please understand that a buyer cannot get more loan than the appraised value of it, and some buyers may or may not have the financial wherewithal to come up to this price if it comes in less. We've done our best to price it right. Ideally, if it's a seller that I'm working with, we did our best to price it right to the estimated fair market value to keep from having that issue, and also to help the home sell quicker at the same time, and at the best price for that matter, because a home that sells quicker is always selling at the better price in the market, and on many cases. But from a buyer's perspective, it's important to know that, hey, you may be needing to be prepared to come up with a difference if there's something there. There is such a thing in your purchase contract, and I always recommend that you leave it in place, called an appraisal contingency, which gives you the right to walk away from the property if it becomes a zero-sum game and there is no negotiation to have between you and the seller. So sometimes that can equal an issue towards the end. However, in practice, it seems like most people, both buyers and sellers, if there's a low appraisal issue, will still try to figure out if they can work together and how they're going to work together. Either the seller's going to have to come down all the way, or the buyer's going to come up all the way, or more commonly what I see is people meeting in the middle or trying to figure it out together. It seems to be the case. So if you have questions about this, I'm going to put my contact information up. Feel free to reach out to me and share any of the closing day mistakes or issues that you think should be in another video. Please let me know. I'm always happy to hear from you. Now it's your turn. And this is the part that's really exciting in the video. Now that all this information is out and now you've learned 5 new things to be aware of on your closing day as a home buyer, let's talk about what's most important to you. Tell me in the comment section what was most shocking to you. Is it the fact that the mortgage interest rate could change right before you close? Is it the fact that you need to remember that the house isn't yours until it actually records? Or maybe it was the third point, maybe it was a different point, like, hey, you still need to do your homework, especially about those building permits and such, and talk to your trusted real estate advisor. Tell me which point was most important to you or most shocking to you, and how you're going to use this knowledge going forward in your closing process when it comes time to buy your new home. Thank you. So if you haven't already done so, I'm going to ask you to do 3 things, especially if you want to continue seeing great videos like this. Give me some support with subscribing to the channel, liking this video, and sharing it around with somebody that you know is going to be able to help. If you have any questions, again, please feel free to reach out. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. And between now and next time, I'm wishing you and yours a lifetime full of love, wealth, abundance, and happiness. Thank you for watching, and enjoy an amazing day.